welcome back to day 7 of the 2023 holiday card series. I hope I have inspired you to reach out and explore different color combinations this year. I know our typical is to really gravitate towards the greens and the reds, but I challenged you to step out of that comfort zone. I wanted you to use purples and teals and blushes because I think you can find a great color palette no matter what time of year. But especially during the holiday season, if you kind of go outside the box, you really are inspired to create. Now, within videos day 1 through day 6, I gave you some sample cards, a sample color palette, as well as how you can pull your inks, your papers, and your alcohol markers. So that's an easy way to reference back to those videos and see how you can work that color combination in. I also challenge you to use different brands. You don't have to stick with one brand. If there is a nice shade of blue and a Concord and Ninth, but you're working with a Hero Arts product, mix it. It's gonna be okay. All right, the biggest thing that inspired me this year, and I've had it in my room for over a year now, has been the Color Cube. The Color Cube was created by Renea Clark, and I believe that this woman is brilliant for coming up with this concept. It has made my card making, but not just my card making, how I style my home, also very, very cohesive by using her color cube. Now, I also get inspiration from Pinterest, so I'll show you my board a little bit later, but I also am inspired by nature. If I see somebody with a pretty blouse on, I'll make sure to, I really like those colors together. Another place to find great color palettes is actually men's ties. If you just Google men's ties or you're in a store, if you go over to the men's section, they have some really gorgeous, literally gorgeous ties. And you can find very, very pretty color combinations in that as well. But remember, anytime you're picking a color combination, you just want it to be cohesive and pretty, to be honest. So I'm going to share with you my tips and tricks on how I get a really nice color palette. So without further ado, let's dive into the color cube and why I think it's so fantastic. Okay, so there are 2 color cubes. There is a volume 1 and a volume 2. I would suggest getting both. That's just my personal opinion because you're going to see some color combos that are going to be in one that might not be in the other. But let's just dive into one of them right now. So as I lift this up, you're going to get these little cards here. And these little cards make it super, super easy to pick a color palette. So I'm going to bring out her instruction sheet here. And this is going to tell you how to pick your color palette, how to match your colors, what your hex codes are, and your tints and your shades. So let me flip this around. Let me grab one here. All right, so this is where you get your inspiration from. This is your color palette. This here is just a reference photo. So let's say, for instance, you were out in nature and only saw that. That is a gorgeous color palette. You could easily take a picture of this and go home and recreate this. Now, what I do love about this is if I flip over, I'm also going to get the hex codes for this. So if you are into graphic arts and you need to have the hex codes, they're going to have it here. And then they're also going to have your tints and your shades. And that's going to be here. You're going to go from your lightest to your darkest in each one. So if you wanted a more muted or saturated color, you can go with this one here. If you wanted something just a shade or a tint lighter, you can go with this one here. So what's so great about having these cards? They're all numbered. And by having the card and not actually relying on using your computer to pick colors, this is a bonus of having the cards because sometimes it all depends on how color shows up on our monitors, right? So we might not really get a true color match. By having the cards in hand, they're super, super easy for you to pick the right colors. So let me show you how I go about picking those colors in my craft room. So for me, I keep a binder. I'm just going to scoot this out of the way. I keep a binder, and this has all of my inks and my paper that I have in my craft room. So what I do is I like to go to my box first and kind of pick out a color palette. I'm just going to grab one out here. Oh, and this is gorgeous because this will be our next holiday coming up, which would be Valentine's Day. So all I do is I take my little card here and I just walk it over to my book. This is super easy to do. You can pick multiple color combinations while you're sitting down watching TV, enjoying a good snack or a glass of wine, and bring your box in however you sort your papers and your inks, and then you can go crazy matching this up. Now, remember, I said earlier in the video to mix your brands, right? Mix those inks and those papers. I promise you, everything's going to be okay. So here I can just grab my cube and search through my pinks to see what pink is going to work for me. I can also flip over to this side here. My book is rather big here, and I can also search. So this is a great tool to have compared to looking at your monitor. You can have your cube with you. And I would know like that blush from Alt to New would work. Or if I want to go a little bit brighter, I can do the diamond. But let's say I wanted something a little bit softer. Let's go down here and let's maybe grab this ballet slipper from Pink Fresh. This makes this process super, super easy. And if you don't happen to have one of these colors, you can mix it with your watercolors. You'll see that I believe it was in maybe day 3 of the holiday card series where I mixed my own palette to create a custom color. But this is why having this is so handy. It's absolutely so handy to have. So again, I can flip this over and I can see my tints and my shades and also my hex codes. So if I wanted to do something online and turn this into a color palette and make sure to credit Sarah, I can use these hex codes. And what I also like is that there's names to these. That's what I think it's so pretty. There's names like caramel and light pink and salmon pink and French rose. I mean, who would not want to have something that's made with a French rose? All right, so you can see how easy it is. And what's so great is that you're never going to misplace this because all you have to do is look for where you need to put it back. Let's grab out another one. Let's grab this one. Now, this one is absolutely beautiful. Such a calming color palette. But again, I have the card in hand. I can go ahead and start flipping through my book. We come over here to my browns. And then I can go ahead and start picking my colors. So maybe I can do a craft ink here or wheat from Concord and Ninth. And let's say, for instance, I didn't want to use this whole color palette. Let's say, for instance, I only wanted to use that much. You can do that as well. And that's going to look just as beautiful. Or if you want to eliminate this one and make this just your color palette. Remember, you don't have to use all the colors. This is just a starting point for you. But if you saw this color palette in this, that looks like such a serene card to me. So maybe something that's a little bit beachy, but a little bit more muted when you have your stamps. So think about that as well. When you're grabbing your color palette, just think about, okay, what would I want to use this color palette with? I actually think this color palette would be so gorgeous for masculine cards. And I also love this color palette for sympathy cards, which are really, really hard for me to do at times. I find I really, really struggle with sympathy cards, but this would be a very nice calming palette. So let's go ahead and put that one back. So as you can see, it's very, very simple to just pull a card and bring it over to your inks and your papers. Now, let's say, for instance, let's grab one more here. Uh, oh, let's grab this one because this is one I used earlier in the series. So say, for instance, I have this one here. Now I can take this over to my markers and I can match this with the tips of my markers. So this is one of the color palettes that we did use this year, which I absolutely loved. And you can match this with everything, your inks, your alcohol markers. Let's say, for instance, you have watercolors. You can match this with your watercolors as well. This is a very easy and eye-pleasing color palette. Now, I will say if you are going to use any kind of wet medium, as if you're using alcohol inks, for instance, or if you're using watercolor, I would definitely suggest picking a color palette that the colors are going to blend okay together. Like these two colors are going to blend okay together, and these two colors. But you might get maybe this color when you blend these two together. So just kind of keep that in mind. Or if you blend these two together, you might get more of a shade that's down here. Keep that in mind if you're using a wet medium. All right, let me show you my Pinterest board. Okay, here is my Pinterest board. It has color combinations, and as you can see, I have over 1,200 color palettes here. So as I scroll, I can also get inspired by these colors here. The only downside, a little bit of a potential of a downside here, is the fact that you're only going to see the color in which your monitor shows it in compared to the cards, but you can still be inspired by this as well. So having those color combinations available on your computer is also another great idea. And I do believe that Sarah does have a website version of the color palette instead of the box. But again, I really think having that box is so handy in order just for you to take that box and match it to everything that you might have as far as a color medium in your room. But as you can see here, I've pinned a lot. So if you feel like following this board, go for it, because I always add inspiration color photos here all the time. Like this one here is gorgeous. This one here I've used before on a card. So just keep in mind that you can also use these Pinterest boards to be inspired as well. Let's finish up with let me showing you how you can get your colors to match if you didn't have any of these above, but I highly do recommend them. Okay, hold on one second. Okay, I have had this in my craft room for years. This is my creative color wheel. I've used this when I'm trying to do watercolors and what is going to match. So let me flip this over. And as you can see here in the back, it's going to tell you what your complementary colors are, your split complementary colors. So if I'm looking at this blue here, which is going to be my pure color, this is going to be my tint, my tone, and my shade. And then I can walk myself right across to the orange, and that's going to be my complementary color. Now, if I wanted to split that, I can do the blue with the yellows or the red oranges. So this is yellow orange and red orange. So I know that these colors are going to work seamlessly together. Now I could go outside of that and I can do the blue here with this yellow and this red, and I'm also going to get a great color blend. So using something like this is very, very helpful as well. This one here, it gives me all of my tints. But again, I'm still doing the same thing. I have my blue green, brings me over to my orange red, and I know that's going to be a pretty color combination. I can also go to this one, and I can go to this one, to two off, and I'm going to get a beautiful color palette as well. Again, I use this a lot when I'm watercoloring, just so I can see like the intensity in my tints. But again, this is so handy to have, including adding it to your color cube, because you can really see the depths of these colors. And then you can also say, well, I kind of like that. Let me see if I can find a color palette in my color cube that might work with this. So these are just really, really simple ways for you to find a perfect color palette any time of the year. Now, again, if you guys want to watch me do this throughout 2024, let me know in the comments below. And I'll be more than happy to make that happen for you guys. Because I do believe if you start with the basics of a great color palette, the rest of the card making is very, very easy. All right, everybody. I hope I inspired you to break out and use different color palettes. Again, the color cube for me hands down, has my heart. But if you're also looking to keep something digital, I'll link to Sarah's website because I do believe there might be one that's digital for your iPad or it could be for your computer as well. I can't remember offhand. But if you get the box, number one, it looks beautiful in your craft space. But number two, it really is handy to pull out those cards, walk them over to your inks, and find out what works for you. Also, don't forget about the Pinterest board. I'll put a link to the Pinterest board for the color combinations in the description box below. And I will also link these two as well. These color wheels are absolutely perfect for when you're not just using watercolor, but when you're trying to get a very nice, beautiful color palette. These are really handy to have in your craft room as well. All right, everybody, thank you so very much for your support this year, especially during this series and throughout all of 2023. I could not have this channel without you guys, and I truly appreciate every click, every like, every share, every comment. It really does mean the world to me. I want you guys to go into this holiday season being blessed and stay safe. And if you are missing a loved one, make sure to be around people that can love on you. All right, everybody, have a blessed rest of your year. I will be up on my Instagram and on my Facebook page, which also is linked below. I have several cards to share before the year is over. So stay tuned for that. And then I will see you guys back here on the channel in 2024. God bless you guys, and I will see you guys in the new year. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.